Are you sick of me yet? Because I am sick of me now at this point. So it is great to be back and up here. And one of the things with the conversation on women in technology is you get a great panel of really accomplished people, we'll use the P word, people in technology, and when they happen to be women, we get in this like cranky pants conversation, and we get away from, in talking about the problem, we don't focus on what is actually the solution, which is we need to focus on their talents, their expertise, why they are role models, why this is a really great career. So we're going to do that today. So anyone who wanted the cranky pants conversation, I can point you to a lot of links, or you can go and have coffee, because we're going to focus on the incredible tech skills and careers of the people who happen to be on stage, who also happen to be women. And we're going to keep this really focused, because we have 30 minutes, and they have a lot to say. So I basically have 3 questions. These women all know this. And Laura, let's start with you, because you're in the middle, and we never do that on panels, and that's kind of crazy, because we used to go down the line. You're the CTO and co-founder of Create, and I want you to tell everyone what that is. You've won a Peabody, because that's what all tech people do. You win Peabody Awards. You started coding at age 12. I do want to know if there's a coding language you don't know, because from what I can see in your bio, you pretty much know every coding language.
I have to say I made it a point not to learn COBOL.
Okay. That was sort of intentional.
Very intentional, yeah.
Very intentional. So with all of that, what part of your career are you most proud of? Until recently, probably CNN, but this has been an amazing ride with the startup. So the team we built, the energy coming from absolutely nothing except food out of my refrigerator and people around my dining room table, coding on Saturdays, to an office and salaries and such, and an application that's in beta this week. Woo. It's a little scary. Right. I got to go check my computer now. This has been just an amazing ride. But it's hard to outpace that night at CNN with nothing to do, because nothing crashed, and we went live with the election data system, and that was a pretty big deal. So talk about the CNN and the Peabody and what you did back in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so technically I worked for Turner Broadcasting, and CNN was our client. It's all the same company. And they had a COBOL system, naturally.
Now we know why you don't. Okay, we're going to tell the story. Why you're not learning COBOL. Okay, got it.
I had already made that decision, but it was a 17-year-old system, and they were looking for someone to come in and lead the development team that was building the election data processing, all the networks, all the TV networks, get their data from the AP, and you have to then do something with it, and you can kind of just throw it up on the air. Not really. But you could, and it would be dull. But what we did is we took that data that was coming into the COBOL system, and we moved over to a Java-based system. And we built out all the infrastructure for the political unit to be able to control what they wanted to show and when. And without overstepping, I suppose, what I can say, we had we were providing data for every network, for all 7 at the time networks that they had, television networks, as well as CNN.com. And so when you saw, folks at the Magic Wall or Wolf Blitzer standing up and pointing at data, that data was all coming from our system, and all of the exit poll information. So everything was dependent, and this is the way it is now, where you have a completely data-driven information society. Everything was dependent on our system working.
That's an oh shit moment, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, when they hired us, they said, if you screw...
Wolf Blitzer and the Magic Wall, and you're like, shit, this better work.
Yeah, when they hired us, they said, if you screw this up, you could end up in front of Congress. I'm like, great, okay,
super.
Not going to screw this up. So, Election Day was actually hard because we, frankly, had nothing to do. And we had to sit there and watch the results come in and just keep our fingers crossed that we had done everything right, and we made it through. And that's the
Won a
same
Peabody.
system they're using now. Yeah, so the whole team won a Peabody, not just me.
I know, but
It was kind of cool. They're like, you won a Peabody. I'm like, how does that happen? Okay, I'll take it. Why not?
I'll take a journalism award. No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Tell everyone what Create is.
So Create is a startup. I joined as a co-founder 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. It's a real estate financials analysis system. Right now we're kind of in the data aggregation mode where we're collecting data about properties around Washington, D.C., and we're making it available to real estate developers or really anyone who is looking at buying properties. It's much deeper data than you might get on a Zillow or something like that. It's really for analyzing the potential of a particular property using more sophisticated type tools that real estate developers typically use. But we're hoping to make it available to really everyone who is interested in real estate as an investment. So it could be just, you inherited your grandmother's house and you want to figure out what to do with it. So this would be a way to kind of look at the potential beyond selling it as a single-family home.
We're all voyeurs on real estate, and your site, it's crack once you get in there.
Yeah, it's really a game.
It's totally crack.
It's very fun.
I want to jump down the end, Andrea. I love this about your bio. You chose tech instead of law.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of did the law and now gone to tech, so amen, sister, for just going, skip the law on all that.
Yeah.
And you've recently launched your own company.
Yes. Yes.
But, kind of same question. Like, what part of your career are you really most proud about in terms of where you are now?
I think my time in the federal judiciary, I was there for about 11 years. And I worked my way up from law clerk all the way up to becoming a subject matter expert on emerging technology, information systems throughout the country. And I'm most proud of it because I took a path that was very risky. You talked about that this morning during the networking session, where many startups and startup founders are willing to take a risk, as well as investors. And I think that's the key to really having a kick-ass career, I guess, is to take the path that no one is taking. And I've always done tech. I was helping people move from DOS to Windows, and that's going to date me, but it's been a long time. And it's funny, I wanted to go do law, but the same things keep coming up. And so when I went for my first legal job, I had a panel of 10 people, and they look at my resume, and I had these great things that I had done, pursued on Capitol Hill in different places. And this guy says, "Wow, you did help desk?" And I said, "Yes," to put myself through school. And they asked me, "Could you come and work in IT and help us to understand the users, to translate?" And everyone told me I was crazy because I just graduated from law school and did incredibly well in law school. And I thought, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity, and I pursued it. And through that, and through talking to people within the judiciary and helping them, and that's been a constant theme, helping people to understand technology and being a translator without making them feel stupid, especially leaders, decision makers, chiefs, showing respect and helping them to understand what I know and translating that to how it's going to make an impact on their organization I think that's the most important, especially in the judiciary, where I helped a lot of high-level officials with personal online threats. A lot of cyber teams and incident response teams deal with hacks or intrusions, but they don't talk about the personal side and what this does to a high-level official, or when a high-profile case is coming to an organization. How do you prepare staff? How do you talk to them in a way to prepare their online profiles, especially when it's a high-level person and their families are being threatened? To be able to help them and their families understand what to do to mitigate or remove these kinds of threats, that was, I feel, a very important accomplishment in my life, because I relate to that. No one wants their family to be threatened because of their career, all of your hard work, everything that you've done. And when that happens, who do they go to? Who can they trust and talk to in a way that's not going to make them feel stupid or weak, right? You never want to feel weak if you don't know what to do. And so for me, that was a huge accomplishment, to be able to try to to speak to them in a way that was respectful, help them understand, help them with their families, and then be trusted. I think that's a really important part of building out a career that's different and doing something that you love, and not sacrificing who you are.
That's awesome. What's your new business that you've just launched?
Turnaround Technology, and we provide consulting, technology services, education and training, privacy and cyber. I'm really excited about it because I decided to do it on my own. It's all of those scary things. I'm, got all my money together, selling stuff on eBay. That really resonated with me, looking around the house saying, okay, we need to have, because you need, all of your stuff has to be straight. Just like launching a product, and we talked about that, and you're going through a launch, right? You want to put your best foot forward. And when you launch something, anything, especially you have to know your audience. And that's something I've always held to. People are going to tell you what to do, but don't doubt yourself. I know my clients. I know what they want. I know what they like to see. And so putting out a high quality product, I have to give a shout out. One of my colleagues, a big inspiration, is Marsha Sharma. She's up at the top. Raise your hand, Marsha.
Marsha, where are you?
Masha, sorry, my braces get a little caught. Masha is this incredible entrepreneur. She has a startup. She has her own tech company, web development. Masha and I are so different, but that's what's so awesome about how we create synergy. We went to grad school together. She's everything hip and awesome, and I'm like a little mature and dated and not. And but my strengths complement hers, and everything so she just built out my website. We did it in 14 days. We had nothing. And I wanted to put our best foot forward, and I listened to her expertise, and she listens to mine. We have that great sort of synergy. And so I'm really excited about this company because I'm going to do it for myself. A lot of people along the way will tell you, no, you can't do it, right? Or they'll say, they're terrified for you. Like, I left the government. Oh my gosh, you're going to leave the government, like the world is going to end. And I thought, you only have one life.
So what's the worst thing that can happen? You can go back to working for the government, right?
Yeah, and I can always go back and do that. So why not do something big?
Right.
And kick ass and go out and do what I know that I'm good at, and I know my clients and what they want, and do it the way, and not have anyone tell you. That's the big thing when you're working, right? Everyone wants to tell you how to do everything. And you know what they like, and you know what'll even be better. And I'm all about, the best service and doing it right the first time, and really helping people and doing some great things for the government. I loved your discussion, Melissa, because there's so much impact when you can help people. And a part of my company is eventually, the next part of the vision is to create a lab where we create apps for underserved communities, because there's my dedication to civil rights, always had it, but using technology to teach. So a big part of our corporate responsibility is to, help senior citizens understand wearable technology. They're the most vulnerable. What about creating games for kids involved in the juvenile justice system to help them with decision making? Those are some of the things that we're working on for the future, even though we're new. So I'm really proud of that.
I love that. And I'm going to
Sorry.
jump. No, this is great. I'm going to jump to Melissa. I'm just going to mention I was at the FT Innovate conference earlier in the week, and they were really focusing a lot on the longevity kind of economy right now because of the aging population. Mm-hmm. And as someone from the AARP said, only in Washington do they consider 100 million person, market a burden. For anyone else, it's an opportunity.
Exactly.
But I'll leave it at that. Melissa, great presentation earlier. We heard all about Agilex and stuff we're doing there. We hear that you lead the Enterprise Mobility Group. You didn't mention that you've had tenfold growth because you've been leading it, which is amazing. And you've had a very interesting career from Capitol Hill to sort of so-called Silicon Valley and back again. What part of your career do you look at and go, right, there was a defining moment in terms of what I'm doing now?
It was going to Agilex and starting the mobile business. So I had been at Microsoft for 10 years, and they were very good to me. And leaving there felt like I was jumping off a cliff. And I wasn't just leaving there to go to another big company. I was leaving there to go to a small company and do something that I really knew nothing about. Love Microsoft, but you get a little brainwashed. Never had touched an iPhone. Never touched an iPad. I left. Literally the day that my last day. I know the last day I left, my Windows phone died, and I called my new boss, and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, you go to the App Store and you buy an iPhone, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I can't go in there.
See, that's
what are you talking about? I'm
like, that's like karma.
Yeah.
Like your Windows phone breaks the day you're leaving your job. That is that's the universe confirming what you should be doing. Yes.
It literally broke, and I win, and obviously I got the iPhone. And now I have a Mac, and I'm whatever. But it was.
She's been converted.
I'm on crack now. But it was challenging because I didn't know anything about that business, and it was also, I was very unsure of how receptive the federal government would be to, at the time when I started, agencies wouldn't even allow iPhones onto their network, right? Not much less Android, right? Because of all their security requirements, and there were a lot of barriers that we had to break through, and we actually, for the VA, we did their first implementation of iPhones, and they still were not supposed to be on their network. But it just became very rewarding. All the mission focus with the applications. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but it changes the way people do business. It changes the way people take care of themselves. It's very affirming when you send. Then it just becomes addicting.
Right.
You're just like, okay, now what's next? Who else can we fix? Let's go. You need a mobile device. What do you have? What's your problem? So. It's really that point in my career.
So was it the question of someone asking the right question at the right time to say, hey, what are you doing there? Why don't you come and work for us?
It was, I knew some of the senior leadership at Agilex, and we just happened to go to lunch, and they're like, hey, at the time I was director of operations for the federal business at Microsoft. They're like, hey, what are you doing? What do you think? I'm like, well, maybe it might be time. And they're like, okay, meet us tomorrow. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about this. And it was like 2 weeks later it was done. I was like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the right place at the right time.
Right question, right place, right time. Which kind of falls into, and so, maybe, Melissa, get you to keep going, because one of the other things we talked about was, when we were talking about putting this conversation together, was sort of what made a difference in your career trajectory. And for you, it might have been that risk that you took, jumping from a comfortable job at Microsoft into your new role. But was there any other sort of opportunity, mentor, or something that you think, all right, this is what's made a difference in your career?
Well, I think the risk thing, because after I left Microsoft, prior to that, I used to be a healthcare lobbyist, and I worked. Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry that I did that.
What?
Yeah, I used to be a healthcare lobbyist. I worked at a law firm. We represented, pharmaceutical companies, and I'm trying to make this story brief. I had a bad rollerblading accident, and I was contemplating maybe a change in my career. So I was at home for several weeks, and I posted my resume on Monster. And like 3 days later, this guy from Microsoft calls me, and he's like, hey, I saw your resume on Monster. And I'm like, yeah? I'm like, great. And he's like, well, we have this sales job. And I'm like, I don't know anything about your technology, like nothing. And I'm like, all I know is I got a new laptop and I had to pay like $500 for Office. I'm like, that's it. That's all I know. And I'm like, why do you think that I can sell to this? And he's like, well, you have a healthcare background. And so it was like jumping off a cliff, leaving something, that I was so familiar with to go sell IT to the federal government. So it was that helped. And I've had a couple really good managers, fortunately, so having somebody that manages you, that believes in you, that can also mentor you, that understands your weaknesses but helps you compensate for them. Not everybody does that.
No.
Not all managers are like that, and I had a few in my career that really built my confidence and changed that for me.
Yeah, I would say sometimes it's those people like, kind of kick your butt, harder than anybody else. Laura, what do you think made a difference in your career trajectory in terms of learning everything other than COBOL?
I think that honestly, my as a developer, as a software developer, and that's really how I think of myself most of the time. It's really about perseverance and being willing to kind of, put out there the positives that make a difference. So like the job at CNN, it just, if you really heard the whole story, it just sounds so unlikely. I had I happen to know Java Swing really well.
Anyone know what that is?
Some people might. Yeah, see, a lot of people do. I knew Java Swing. That meant I built front-end desktop, the front end of desktop systems in Java. And they needed someone who knew Java Swing. And I had 10 headhunters call me about a job. Now, mind you, I was like a half-time stay-at-home mom. And like, they were all calling me and they didn't care. They just knew that CNN had this Java Swing job open. It had been open for weeks. And I said, I don't want a headhunter. I'm going to call my friend Joey, and I'm going to get this job. Because if I go through a headhunter, they have to pay more. And besides which, I don't even know who called me first. And I'd already applied for it, too. So I called Joey, and Joey said, yeah, let's get you in here. And he knew the right people. And he got me in. And it's like networking through that back door and saying, like being confident that I could not only get the job, but I didn't need a headhunter to get it. I just needed to work the system. Yeah. Like, and that really that was the way in, was to find the person you knew. And I mean, LinkedIn has gotten me 2 great jobs, including the one I have right now. And so really, it's, the networking talk you gave earlier, and it's just really about making those connections. And when someone emails you and says, hey, what about this? Really thinking about whether that thing, if they actually address it to you by your name, so they know who you are and they ask about the right skills, then it might be a real deal. Yeah. It might not, but just being willing to kind of take that risk and follow up and say, hey, sure.
Well, and that confidence in your own skill set and what you know, and knowing that the market needs it. And, from, I'm going to say from any other kind of career perspective, I hate to say it, someone's like, oh, she works part-time, she's got a kid, oh, she probably wants more, whatever. But to be able to say, no, you need me. You need me. I've got what you want, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how I'm going to get it. It's amazing.
And I will say that one of our team members who was VP level, he was like a guru, and he reported to me. He was like the greatest staff member ever, because like he could totally have held it over me that he was more senior, whatever. But he was so awesome. And I don't think I would have gotten that job if he hadn't seen in me that like, oh, you have a computer science background. Oh, you know this stuff. Oh, you're confident. Oh, you didn't know this question, but you really knew the stuff that mattered. And I think when we're interviewing people, when we turn it around, we have to kind of pay that back. You have to kind of look past did they know this minuscule detail that you just asked about? Maybe that wasn't a good question. Maybe they really have the deep problem-solving skills that we need. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the person that's going to really be able to break down the problems in the long run. And so it's really about investing in where you're going, not necessarily where people are at this second, but where they can go and their potential. And without him seeing that in me, I don't know if I would have gotten through that 5-hour interview successfully. Right. He made the difference, and and it's become, it was a mentoring thing from him to me, and then also, sort of pulling my project management skills in, because I've always kind of had those. And I don't know. Can I tell a little tiny funny story?
Oh, please do.
Okay. So, this is like when I was a kid kind of thing, so forgive me. But I was on...
Pull up a picture of your daughter.
Yeah, I got it. When I was on math team, okay? I was on math team.
You were a math team?
Where else can you admit you were on math team? And everyone's like, yeah, I was on math team.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will admit that I was like not the superstar math geek, okay? I was busy doing other things most of the time. But my friends all were, and I loved being on math team with them. But my day in the sun on math team was when I went from being on the being one of the calculator team problem solvers, I kind of have 2 left thumbs, to being the person handing out the problems. And that really said something. We went from like 5th place in regionals to 3rd place in state, which was not bad, right? And I was leading when we did the 3rd place in state. It helped to get me off the calculator and to the handing the problems out. I realized that what I really understood was how people sort of I could understand where they were coming from and what they could do, and that I could be really efficient at saying, this is the job for you that you're going to love, and that you're going to be able to get that done. And so I've, ever since then, always been kind of aiming at, I love doing technology, but how do I find myself in a position where I can see how responsibilities fit people so that they can achieve their greatest potential. And really CNN was partly about that because I was, the Scrum Master essentially. And so in tech, as we've developed these different roles and sort of brought project management into the tech team, I think that that's really been a powerful metaphor for folks who also see the potential of all the humans who are working on this,
Awesome.
And then so that's my calculator story.
Love it. Andrea, what was one thing that made a difference for you? Was it an opportunity, a mentor, a risk you took that you're like, went from being?
I think that it's a balance of confidence and humility. There's a lot of folks who don't want to help you in the workplace. You might have managers, but they're still helping you. They're still mentoring you. They may not be warm and fuzzy, but they're really honing in on your skills because they are difficult, right? And I remember I had one mentor who was, he was so ruthless with me. And he thought he was so nice. And he got me in the legal field for, I had added a comma in the wrong place. And how do you ever expect to be
Seriously,
anything?
I don't know how you're on the stage for doing that.
And they tell you that, right? They just, but it put, I would listen within reason, right? And you take from every environment skills that you can draw on that can make you better. But at the same time, when they push you down like that, you have to be confident enough to come back and know what you know and follow that each step of the way. And there will be people who are great, who will help you, who know more than you, and you have to be humble to look at how they complement you and how you complement them. But if they know a lot, embrace that. That's why it's great to come together with people with differences. I was always sort of, like I said, the odd one. I always had a bunch of kids during school. I'm always family, all these different kinds of things. I'm not super, but take advantage of who you are and look at others and take that in. And it was those mentors who reached out to me who would say, maybe you should think about it this way and don't be so confident that you don't listen and take that constructive criticism and use it constructively, right? To push yourself forward, to then move to that next level. Just like now in launching my business, I look for success. And where I think I need help, I look around and find people that I can talk to and interview to get the skills that I need to move forward. And I think that's really helped me, even with launching my business, to do it the right way, following the steps that I've learned. That attention to detail that he taught me has served me well every step of the way, because my clients know that if they get something from me, I'm going to always pay attention, because that was such a difficult internship at the time, but it paid off.
Absolutely paid off, and It
Yes.
also paid off because in the world of texting, that guy's getting really bad commas and LOLs from his grandchildren.
They hate it.
There
That's
is
right.
Justice and karma in the world. All right, so since we're standing between everyone and coffee, the only other thing I want to ask: what's the one quick, 1-2 words? What's the skill, the attribute, the what you look for when you're hiring? What do you think it takes for someone to succeed now in tech? We'll start with you, Melissa. Everyone just 1 or 2 things that you think all right.
Integrity and creativity.
All right, awesome.
Deep problem-solving skills and ability to learn.
Awesome.
Enthusiasm and hunger.
Excellent. All right, there's your list. These are the ladies you need to talk to when you're out there having coffee, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.